Avocados, it was gonna have 5,000 tons. I mean, sorry. 500. This is supposed to be 500 tons. So avocado, they were gonna have 500 tons of avocado, and now they have 1,500 tons. So that's a gain of 1,000. This was 500 tons of avocado. Now they have 1,500 tons of avocado, so that's a gain of 1,000. Now on your test, you're gonna have to, you'll have a question like this that will ask you, what were the gains after specialization? And you're gonna have to calculate gains like I have done. So 300 was the gain for oranges for US, 500 was the gain for avocado for US compared to before specialization. So make sure that you can do this, and I have a practice problem like exactly like this that I'll post today hopefully that you can practice on. But make sure you get all of this down. Okay, I'm gonna erase it now. So before I erase it, you see that when they specialized, like the David Ricardo theory, they actually did end up with more. So the theory says that do what you can do best and spend all your resources on that activity, and then trade, and you'll see that you will have more rather than spending your resources in a multiple things that you may be not good at, and so don't do that. Spend your resources, your money on producing something you're good at and do maximum amount of that, and then let the other nation or other company do what they are best at, and then later you can both trade with each other and you will have more products at the end. So some people suffer from free trade as well. US avocado producers. So we found out that US had a comparative advantage in producing oranges. So according to the theory, US should produce only oranges. But what about avocado growers in US? They will suffer. Their agricultural process will shut down, and but that's okay, because even though that some people do suffer from this, overall the nation is better off. That overall US is better off, and we will see that the general benefits of trade exceeds the loss. Now, free trade by Buying is import and selling is export. So in free trade, buying is import and selling is export. Free trade creates winners and losers. Who benefits from free trades? Domestic producers of exported goods. Domestic consumers of imported goods. Who bears the cost of free trade? Domestic producers of imported goods. Steel industry in Youngstown, example, steel industry in Youngstown, Ohio, shut down. Textile producers in North Carolina. So what happens? Why do these industries close as a result of free trade? What happens is that, for example, Youngstown had a steel mill and there were a lot of jobs and it was a happening place. But what happened was China and other countries started importing steel to US for a much cheaper price. The price was cheap and the industry in Youngstown, Ohio couldn't compete with the price. So they went out of business. It was shut down. These are the peoples that bear the cost of free trade. Similarly, textile producers in North Carolina also went out of business because they couldn't compete with the international textile prices or fabric prices. So with free trade, obviously, you know, if someone can buy something for cheaper, they'll buy it for cheaper. And if you cannot compete with their price, then, you know, it's unfortunate for you. So domestic producers of imported goods suffer sometimes because of free trade. Okay, who benefits from it? Well, domestic consumers of imported goods definitely benefit because let's say that a lot of our imported toys and imported, let's say, what else do we import? Oil, we import steel. So these things are very cheap to us. Plastic, these things cost consumers a very cheap price. Like these imported goods that are coming from Bangladesh, China, whatever, they're very cheap. So the consumers in US really enjoy the low prices on it. If we were to make those toys in US, it would cost a lot because labor here is very expensive. And as a result, the general US population or people would not be able to buy, all kinds of toys all the time because they would be really expensive. Because these toys are imported from China or India or whatever, they're cheaper, and most of the US citizen can afford to buy it at a lower price. So consumers benefit from these free trades. So consumers of these imported goods benefit. Now, who else benefits? Domestic producers of exported goods. So our car industry that is making cars in US, when they export these cars to Germany and to the rest of the world, that's part of free trade, and those producers are making profit. So domestic producers of exported goods, they benefit from free trade as well. We also export, so what else US exports? US exports cars, basically high-tech stuff, IT services, legal services. US exports computers and machineries and these kind of things. So the domestic producers who make those cars and high-tech stuff and machinery, they really benefit from the free trade as well. So this is the free trade examples. Now, let me erase it. Compare the benefits of those who gain from, hold on 1 second. Compare the benefits of those who gain from free trade to those who lose. So in general, most economists agree that the gains, the overall gain, from free trade exceeds the cost. As a result, US economy is better off. So, Youngstown, Ohio, got poorer after shutting down of the steel mill. Steel mill shut down. But US overall got richer. So in general, economists believe that the overall gains from free trade exceed the cost, that even though places like Youngstown suffer, but overall US is richer as a result of free trade. Okay. So another example is that before we used to have landlines. Before we had landline phones. Landline phones. Now we have cell phones. So before we had landline phones and pay phones. There were jobs with landline phones and pay phones. When cell phones came, these industries started to shut down. The landline and pay phones, they started to go away, and we lost job as a result of that. But cell phones came in, and they created more jobs than we had for landlines or pay phones, and even better paying jobs. So even though sometimes some things don't work out or get old-fashioned, shuts down, but there's always new industry that's taking over, creating more jobs and even better paying jobs. So let's say that the textile industry in North Carolina had to shut down because it couldn't compete with the international prices. That's okay because, well, it's not okay for the town in North Carolina, but we have to spend our resources towards what we do best. So if US has the resources, has the technology to make high-tech stuff, it doesn't make sense for US to be making clothes. You see? And there are other nations that are behind that probably couldn't make clothes before, but now they can. So like Bangladesh now,